Welcome everyone. Sales analytics and reporting is what we will be discussing in this short and sweet presentation. Remember, we are going to talk about the data that sales create and how do we utilize this data in future for the benefit of achieving more and more sales thereby. So basically, we'll talk about the new realities of sales decision making based on data that I've said to you, sales engineering and the role of sales engineering in this presentation. Remember, we are talking only about data that we have created because of the sales that we have done in this present quarter, in this present fiscal year, and how this can be reflective of performance in the due quarters or the next fiscal. So let us understand what are the various impediments or difficulties that a sales decision maker faces today. Why? There are a number of things. First and foremost thing is, I believe, is the immense competitive business environment. In fact, it's a very cutthroat competition that has come across, not only for the competitors, but also from the customers. Customers are getting finicky. They are being served by everybody. Everybody wants to have a share in the pie. And in a result, what is happening? The power seems to be shifting from the organization's company to the end consumer, by the way, because now every competitors wants to focus and customize their scale of operations towards the requirement of the end customers. Next is the exploding volume of data that comes around it. Yes, earlier times the data was limited perhaps, and we used to work on based on the intuition, but today we are flooded with data altogether. In fact, we are drowning in data. What we are lacking is to make a sense of those data. We need to understand the analysis part of the data, how to go about it. Need for faster decision making is what the reaction is all about it. Information overload, lack of time, yet decisions have to be made all the time, every time. Higher standard of accountability, sales expenditures have to be justified in the same way as the other investment is concerned. This is what we are looking forward time and again. This is the higher standard of accountability that comes around here. So let us understand the need for better sales decision making. They are intuitive decision making. We have been doing it on the base of intuition for the past few decades, but with the advent of information technologies, definitely data have come across, and now we have to make a insight of the data, make a sense of that data that has been coming across it, or better if we can have go with the gut feeling, probably past experience and instinct that goes around it. So how do we make a much better sales? In a world characterized by rapid change, information overload, accountability, intuition is likely to generate a superior result. Remember, data-based model support decision making is what we are looking into it. Yes, I'm talking about sales engineering. Today's world is dominated by data from where what was the customer segment that we have addressed altogether, how did we go across with this sales figure, which particular region actually gave me the most number of sales or the least number of sales, as the case might be. What am I trying to do? I am trying to create data, and from data I'm trying to make an insight, and this is what exactly is sales engineering is all about. Sales engineering, it's basically a systematic approach to harness data, knowledge, and to drive effective sales decision making and implement through a technology enabled and model supported interactive decision making. So this is basically we're talking about the definition of sales engineering. In layman word is basically cause and effect relationship that we try to find out through a number of factors, factors which are dependent factors, factors which are independent factors. If we can draw a relation between them using some mathematical calculation popularly known as algorithm, and that is what sales engineering is all about it. Remember, these factors, these engineering, these decision making capabilities would only enhance because of the outcome of that what the algorithm says to us. So basically, again, to understand its basic systematic approach to harness data, basically collating data, making a sense of data to form our knowledge or information to drive effective decision making in terms of sales, and probably implementation through the technology enabled and model supported. Basically what I said about is algorithm. So it's a algorithm centric decision making. Algorithm consists of data which has to have some sense of causes and effective relationship that comes around it. I hope everything is understand what has been made, what has been discussed in this particular slide as far as sales engineering is concerned. So arriving into a decision making capabilities, or should I say enhancing decision making capabilities through the uses of algorithms from the sales data thereof. Simple terms as a definition of sales engineering is concerned. So we'll talk about the sales needed for sales engineering. What are the analytical roles and responsibility? Look, we have something called a business skills, we have something called technology skills, and then we have got something analytical skills. And this is what we are talking about it. In business skills, what does it tells me? It tells me who are the business leaders and who are the development managers. Now, business leaders would be lead analytical transforming the organizations as to what is your core competencies, what are you good at it, are you good at manufacturing, are you good at sales, a particular sales promotions. Similarly, for delivery managers is data driven and insights and the interface with the end user. It's basically how engaged your end customer is all about it. Now, based upon it, what will you go around it? You should then probably collate it and mix it with something called technological skills in terms of data engineering, which is basically collecting data and streamlining it and prioritizing it and segmenting it to form a some sense of semblance out there or an insight around it. So these, when they get in touch with the business leaders and delivery chairs, it comes as a data architect. It ensures the consistencies and qualities of the data flows are all about it. Whereas on the analytical skills, if we mix it up with the workflows integrations, remember it's analytical skills that we're talking about it. It is the algorithm, the quality of the algorithm that I'm talking around here. The visualizing analyst, the visualizing data and building the reports as to representations in terms of graphic user interface, as the case might be. So when analytical skills mixed with the business skills of business leaders and delivery managers, we are going to come up with something called analytic translation. Basically, it tells me about what are the problem areas and probably which areas to be solved and what areas to be focused around it. On the other hand, when analytical skills and technological skills comes around it, these are the places or these are the people who are going to manage. Both of them are known as a data scientist, who are actually responsible for the construction of the algorithm or the software that comes around it. So I hope everybody understands sales need for sales engineering. We have the core business that we're talking about it. We have the technical know-hows and the analytical know-hows, the analysis part of it, analytical know-how that comes around. When analyticals and technological skills comes around, they come up with a algorithm. I was a data scientist. But on the other hand, we have the data architect between the technological skills and the business skill, and the analytical translators between the business skills and the visualizing analysis. So let us understand where does it comes around it. If we look into it, it's a sales environment. Basically, we are looking where to make sales and probably making sales effectively. So this is translating into data. A lot of data that has been created, maybe in the weekend, in the morning, or in the evening, whenever we make the sale during the weekdays, during the promotional days, what the so it gives me a lot of databases. Now this databases is something which we need to make some informations out here. Now to bring out this information, we need to have an understanding with the mental model decision models, being certain intuition that needs to work around it. Now based on this insights that we come with certain sense of decision making under certainty or uncertainty. This is all we talk about the modeling part about it, or the introspection that comes around it. Based upon the insights, we come up with a decision. The decision will actually help us to go with the implementation process, thereby maybe financial decision, human decision, organizational decision, resource decision, and there is an implementation which actually takes place. And again, this implementation will enhance my sales capabilities or sales data. So this is a process that goes on and on and on, and this process is to be termed as sales engineering. Hope this particular slide would have removed any sort of misconception that might have led around it. In case if you have not gone, please watch this video once again. Essentially, models are the core of sales engineering. So what exactly is a model? I said so about the algorithms or the mathematical reasoning, about the causes and effects that comes around it. Models are stylized representations of reality that structures our thinking about what to work and how to work. Models indicate what factors should be considered and which factors can be ignored. By focusing on the relevant factors, their interrelationship reality can be simplified. Models are used because they facilitate top-down processing as opposed to the bottoms-up processing, as the case might be. This is what we actually go around. Definitely, we go around. So models are useful because they facilitate top-down approaches. We have the issues in using models and assembling the arsenal of model for the domain of interest. Probably there are many data scientists who know how to manage the data, but there are people who will not be able to model the things, probably replicated it into a certain environment or certain industry or person, for that matter, certain company thereof. So retrieving relevant mental models in a given situation is very important. And if you cannot do it, if you cannot replicate it, if you cannot administer or with a certain variances, that every company is unique in a way, every industry functions differently, every situation is dynamic in nature. So being aware of the limitation of the mental models, they may overrepresent or probably even underrepresent or malrepresent things also. So remember, no model, no algorithm is true, but some models are definitely much more useful than others. So probably nobody will come up with 100% accuracy. Any accuracy and above 80% is what is acceptable. So typical models are verbal models. Sales is a function of advertising, one of the traditional model that we come around it. Then probably the box and arrow models, which says the more the advertising, the more the sales would be. It is directly correlation with another. Then we have the graphical model, which says the sales is a part of an advertising. With the passage of time, the more the advertising comes around, the sales will eventually grow, and after a point of time, it will mature, it will plateau down. And then, of course, is what we are talking about, the sales engineering. We have factor A, factor B, factor E, the exponential component, probably a relationship that comes around it, the dependency that telling. It's this is the mathematical model that comes around. So response to the model and decision stop all together in the loop forward. What do we go around it? Remember, we have the inputs which goes with an actions or processes, comes with an output, and then there's a feedback about it. So input is product design, pricing, advertising, selling. The response when you go to the company, when you go to the market, approach your customer, there is a response model. People are the outputs are people aware? Are people preferring a product? Are there enough number of sales? Based upon this, there would be an evaluation, control, and adoption again in the product design, again in the pricing, again in the advertising, and again in the promotion. And this is what will keep on going around till you achieve a finer or probably refined sales objective every now and then. So this is what is from sales actions to competitive actions to observation or output, and then probably feedback, and the loop continues to go around it. Whereas in a simple linear process model, you have your time and the sales that needs to be taken care of. So you have advertising on your x-axis and the sales which goes around it. And you will see when there is a less of an advertisement, what was the sale, when was the increase in advertisement totally, probably what was the sale. And you look into it, as we spend more and more dollars, the sales actually goes up, up, up and above. After a point, probably now why there is a plateauing of the sales, probably the market has matured, probably there is no growth prospect for the market, so it doesn't make sense to make much more advertising thereby. So you need to understand this graph as in a linear simpler model is all about it. So if you look into it, it is straightforward, nothing going around it. It is in proportions with the advertisement will your sales will actually occur. So the question remains, how do we build an algorithm or a model per se? Specify the model, the variables. Did I say independent variables and dependent variables, which aim to include relationship interactions, dynamic, how they are linked together. Calibrate the model, statistical estimation with real historical data, as the case might be. Experimentation, managerial judgment of how we are going across and what needs to be done. So validate the model. Face validity, does it make sense? Global fit is what your R square would be, or the regression square, the model fit, the variable significance, as in your significance test or the confidence level that we go about, the T test that comes around it, and probably how do we apply the model as a ease of use, and the usefulness thereby. So you need to specify the model, calibrate the model. When I say calibrate the model with respect to the company, industry, situation, and so on and so forth. So you need to have a pilot survey around it. You need to have some sense of intuition, some sense of understanding what works and what does not work. And once the pilot study has been done, you validate the model. Probably then you go for the full-fledged implementation and come with certain decision-making skills. So profit equation is nothing but is all your revenues, all the money that comes in minus or reduce minus the cost, or probably all the expenses that you make for the profit to flow in. So profit is equal to revenue minus cost. On the other hand, revenue is nothing but a component of sales volume, the number of units that you sell, into multiplied by or times the input, should I say the variable cost thereby. So sales volumes times price variable cost is what we look into it, and this is revenue. Remember, their cost is, there are only two costs. The one is a variable cost, the other one will be a fixed cost. So we need to understand this thing. Sales volume, revenue is nothing but sales volume into price, and cost, there are two costs, variable cost and fixed cost. So this is what we need to understand. Now talking about sales volume, did I say after a point there you cannot make most sales because the market matures, or there are no avenues to grow in the market because every corner of the market has been covered. So sales volume is nothing but the industry sales by the market share. So overall industry that you belong to, that whichever industry, what is industry is selling it out, what is the total revenue, and of that revenue, what was your part of the revenue, is your market share. So that is what we are looking into it. Can we increase this thing? And we need to potentially increase the revenue from the industry sale, increase your market share, and you will see it grows around. Your sales volume into price will give me the revenue. The cost will be only about variable and the fixed cost thereby. This brings me to the very fag end of understanding. Remember, we are talking about sales analytics and reporting. So how do we go about it? You know, the fixed cost is variable cost, and fixed cost, the cost remains out here. This is all about distribution, advertising, and other fixed cost. This will actually implement your market share. Remember, even price will also influence your market share. So if you can influence this market share, can you increase this to from 10% to 35%, from 35% to 60%, from 60% to 90%, that you go around it of the industry, and then that means that will only impact upon your revenue. The price that comes around it is going to impact your revenues and the market share thereby. So this is what needs to be understood time and again for you to implement your sales decision and probably profit making abilities thereby. With this, I come to an end of this presentation on sales analytics and reporting. Thank you for watching this video till the end.